Here's a game that I've run to review for a few years now, but just never got around to playing it. VVVVVV. Is there an easier way to say this? I don't think so. I think it's just called VVVVVV. 6 V's, all in a row, named for all of the characters you'll find in the game. Viridian, Violet, Vitellory, Vitellory? Sure, we'll go with that. Vermilion, Verdigras, and Victoria. You play as Viridian, the captain of the spaceship, in which there is some catastrophic event that causes the inhabitants to evacuate through a teleporter. The captain pops out and realizes that he's the only one that remains. It's now up to Captain Viridian to hunt down his shipmates and evacuate the space station that you crashed on. The gameplay is incredibly simple in design. You move Viridian around with the arrow keys. There is no jumping or attacking in the game. Instead, the sole mechanic is the ability to flip gravity by pressing space. That's it. Move through rooms, flipping gravity to avoid spikes and the small amount of odd enemies that you can find. And by odd enemies, I mean it. Stop signs, random shapes, hearts. If a room has an enemy, it's gonna be a bit strange. But don't be mistaken, they will kill you in one hit. In fact, all hazards do. There are no energy bars, but there's also infinite lives. Dying only restarts you back to the most recently activated checkpoint. With these sorts of mechanics, the whole sole purpose is to simply find your friends. There are 6 levels, if you will, all connected through a sort of hub area. There is a map that can be accessed by pressing enter, and you can see where the different stages were found, teleporter locations, and eventually even the trinket locations, which act as the game's lone collectible. The first stage is where you popped out of after the intro scenes, but the remaining ones must be found by getting through the hub and locating them. Each one of these stages houses one of your shipmates to be rescued. Usually after rescuing one of the crew, you enter the teleporter and come out back at the ship. But there are times later in the game where you enter another dimension that must be traveled through before getting back to the ship. These areas are much more difficult than the rest of the game, but if you're persistent, you'll get through them. Will you get lost traveling the hub world? Probably. But again, you do have the map, and if you see an area you think you should explore further, you can use the teleporters to fast travel. You may have noticed that the rooms in each stage are named. They're usually just there for the hell of it, and don't really have much bearing to the game as a whole. And yes, sometimes the names mock you too, especially during the notorious 5-room puzzle to get the hardest trinket of the game, in which you need to flawlessly navigate these hazards, hit a breaking brick, and then flip back down to the ground and hope you remember to move right to grab the object. Granted, I didn't get this, and I tried at least 100 times. I wanted to move on so I could actually finish the game and review it. You probably noticed the extremely retro look to the game. It resembles a DOS game, from the graphics to the sound style. It fits perfectly, and I wouldn't be able to see it in any other way. There are no bosses, but one of the rooms, the Gravitron, is close enough to one. You just have to survive for a minute, but you're given checkpoints every 5 seconds. Honestly, this area feels like it belongs in Undertale. Maybe that's a game I should review. There's also an Easter egg of sorts you can find. In an out there area, you can find a really strange elephant that looks like it's crying. If you stick around long enough, even Viridian gets depressed. What is the point of this? Who knows, but it's there. That's all I have for VVVVVV. Sure, this is a short review, but the mechanics are fairly simple, and the game is short, clocking in at about 2 hours or less. I think it took me an hour and a half to finish, and that's even spending about 15 to 20 minutes in that infamous trinket puzzle. If you see this game for a few bucks, I would recommend it. Its gameplay appeals to everyone, and there's more puzzle solving in the game than action, since, well, you can't kill any enemies. In any case, VVVVVV is a simple yet fun game, but don't expect anything more than a weekend's enjoyment out of it. Final score? We'll go with 5 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.